This super simple, super cute flower chain is something that looks great in so many different kinds of yarn. So this yellow chain is made from the budget acrylic from Loops and Threads, the ones that come in those giant skeins at Michael's. And this is also, I think this is a budget yarn. This is a cotton blend yarn. And I wanted to show this because I think these flowers look super cute in variegated yarn. It really shows off the colors, and because it's worked up one side and then worked back down the other side, you get really interesting color changes. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to chain together 4, and I think it'll become really apparent really quickly that you can make this as long as you want. And it'll be really easy, right? Like you could make this infinity long. So this is so versatile. You can not only use it for things like necklaces and party favors and headbands, but you can also super easily make this long enough to be something to hang on the wall or a festive streamer or door decorations. It's a great gift and it's super easy to do. So let's get started and I will show you how to make this super easy flower chain. For this tutorial, I will be using the Loops and Threads Soft and Shiny yarn in the colorway Orchid. We're going to start with a slip knot, and we'll put the slip knot on the hook. And what we're going to do now is we are going to chain 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, as I'm talking through the stitch pattern, I will also try to be explaining why we're doing certain things. So if you do want to make it longer, you don't have to constantly count stitches. You'll understand exactly why stitches are in certain places. I find it really helpful to understand the bigger picture of a stitch pattern, and hopefully that'll be helpful to you as well. So we have chained 7, and what we're going to do is we are going to slip stitch in the 4th chain from the hook, and I'm going to slip stitch into the bump in the back. You can obviously slip stitch directly through the chain if you prefer, whatever is easiest for you. And we are slip stitching through the 4th chain of the hook because we are creating a tiny loop right here that we're going to work into. So this is the center of the first flower, and what we're going to do now is we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and we are going to be working directly into the center of the loop. Now you can put as many petals as you like. We're working on half of each flower at a time. I've tried 2 petals and I've tried 3 petals. I don't think I can cram any more petals onto such a small loop. More than 3 would be too many, I think. So if you want to have more than 3 petals on each side for 6 or more petals on each flower, you'll probably want to chain more and create a larger loop. But for the time being, we're going to make 3 petals on each side. So I'm going to double crochet twice into the loop. So there's most of the first petal. I know it doesn't look like much yet. We're going to chain 3, and we're going to slip stitch into the loop. So that is 1 petal. Now we're going to chain 3, and we're going to double crochet again twice into the loop. And we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, slip stitch again into the loop. And that is the second petal. You can see that's what it looks like. Now we're going to shove all of those stitches over. See, it's already a little bit tight. And we're going to chain 3, double crochet twice, all into that same loop. So that is the beginning of the 3rd petal, and you can see that is what it looks like. Now instead of completing that petal, we're going to chain 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And this is what we have so far. So we are only doing, like I said, we're doing half of the flower at a time. We're going to go all the way down to half of all the flowers we want. Then we'll come back down the other side and do the other half of the flowers. So what we're starting on now is we are starting on the second flower. So we're going to do something very similar to what we just did. So we chain 10 and we're going to slip stitch into the 4th stitch from the hook. And here we've created another loop to work into. This is again the center of the flower. We're going to chain 3 and we're going to start our second flower with 2 double crochets, 1, 2, chain 3, slip stitch back into the center to finish that petal. So there you have a petal. We're going to chain 3, 2 double crochets. This is the second petal. Chain 3, slip stitch back into the center. That's 2 petals. Now we're going to chain 3, 2 double crochets back into the center. And that is your second set of 3 petals. Now we're going to chain 10 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we're going to create our third flower. We're going to start by slip stitching into the 4th chain from our hook, chain 3, working into that new loop you just created, 2 double crochets, chain 3, slip stitch back into the center. That's your first petal on your third flower. Chain 3, 2 double crochets back into the center. Chain 3, slip stitch back into the middle. That is your second petal done. Chain 3, 2 double crochets back into the center. And that is the third petal in your third flower. So far, you should have something that looks a little bit like this. Now, I think it's probably very obvious now how to keep this going forever. So we're going to do 4 flowers, but if you want to do more, then just keep going this way and pause the video until you have as many flowers as you like, and then come back and watch the 4th flower so you know how to do the last flower in your chain and how to go back. So next we're going to do the last flower in our chain of 4. So we're going to chain 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Again, we're going to create a loop by slip stitching into the 4th stitch from our hook, chain 3, and we're going to work into that loop we just created, 2 double crochets, chain 3, slip stitch back into that loop. That is your first petal in your 4th flower. Chain 3, 2 double crochets back into the center. Chain 3, slip stitch back into that center loop. That is your second petal of your 4th flower done. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3, 2 double crochets into the center. Now, if you were going to keep going, you would now do what we did in the past 3 flowers and now chain 10 and keep going. But since we're going to turn around now and do the other side, of the flower chain, we're going to finish off this fourth flower by doing the 3 other petals on the other side. So we're going to chain 3, finish off this third petal, so slip stitch back into the center. Now we're going to make 3 more petals, chain 3, 2 double crochets back into that center loop, 1, 2, chain 3, slip stitch back into the center loop, and by now you will probably notice that it's getting a little bit crowded, but I think that this is one of the things that makes 6 petals look much better in this floral chain than 4 petals does. I found 4 petals to be too sparse and 6 petals to be just crowded enough where it looked all right. So we have to make 2 more petals. So we're going to chain 3, 2 double crochets into that center loop, chain 3, try to slip stitch back into that center loop. It's getting a little bit crowded. Now we're going to chain 3, 2 double crochets into that center loop. Okay, now we should have, count them, 6 petals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, this petal that you've just done, we're not going to finish off entirely. What we are going to do is we're going to attach it back on to this chain here. And also the chain feels a little bit flimsy, so we do want to fortify it a little bit. Or what is it called? We just want to strengthen it a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to skip 2 stitches and we're going to slip stitch in the following stitch. So it looks like this, and this last petal sort of becomes part of the chain. Now we're going to chain 2 and we're going to skip 2 stitches and we're going to slip stitch into the following stitch. Now you see you're on the other side of the third flower. Now what we're going to do is we're going to chain and we're going to slip stitch into the center loop of that third flower, and we are going to make 3 more petals on that third flower because we've only done half of it. So we've done 3. So we're going to chain 3, we're going to double crochet twice into that center loop, chain 3, slip stitch back into the center loop of the third petal, third flower, chain 3, 2 double crochets. It's getting tight now. Scooch your stitches over, chain 3, slip stitch back into the center loop of that third flower. Now we're going to work on the third petal, the third and last petal on this side of your third flower. So we're going to chain 3, 2 double crochets into that center loop, and just like the fourth flower, we're actually going to attach the end of this petal to the chain. So we're going to skip 2 stitches and we're going to slip stitch into the following stitch, and we're going to chain 2, skip 2 stitches and slip stitch into the following stitch of that connecting chain, and now we're at the second flower. So let's take a look at what we've done with the third and fourth flowers. So here we are with the third and fourth flowers. So there's 6 petals on each one. One is attached, well actually 2 are attached. So one on the top, well the one on the first side that we worked is attached, the third one, and the third one on the bottom side that we worked on is attached. So there is some symmetry there, although it does appear that this first petal we worked in all cases seems to be pulling away from the bar a little bit, although I do think that evens out. All right, let's work on the second flower. So we just slip stitched back to the end of that flower and we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, join it to the center loop of the second flower, but with a slip stitch. Now we're going to chain 3, and we're going to place 2 double crochets in the center. This is your petal. We're going to chain 3, scooch the stitches over, slip stitch into that center loop, chain 3, 2 double crochets into the center loop to make another petal, chain 3, slip stitch back into that loop to complete the second petal. Now this wedge another petal on into the loop, which is not easy. We're going to chain 3, 2 double crochets into that center loop, and remember this is the last petal, so we're going to attach it to the connecting chain. So we're going to skip 2 stitches and slip stitch. Now we're going to chain 2, skip 2 more stitches, and we are back at the first flower. We're going to slip stitch into the following stitch. Now we're back at the first flower where we have 3 petals that we did on the way up, and now we're going to do 3 petals on the way down. But first we're going to join it in the center, so we're going to chain 3, slip stitch into that center loop, chain 3. We're going to make our first petal on this side on the first flower, so we're going to 2 double crochets into the center, chain 3, slip stitch back into the center, chain 3, 2 double crochets into the center loop, chain 3, slip stitch back into the center loop, and now you've done 2 petals. As you can see, we have 3 petals on this side, and now we've just done 2 petals here. We're going to make our last petal in this flower. We're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, place 2 double crochets into that center loop. It's very crowded now, and what we're going to do is you have this little tail, and you should have a few stitches left on that tail. We're going to join it to the last stitch on that tail chain, and we're going to fasten off, and let's take a look at what we have. If you fluff the flowers out and move them around the loop so they're a bit more even because we push them around when we're making them, this is what you have, and it is so pretty, so easy. You could do this with your eyes closed once you get the hang of it, because you're just crocheting, more or less you're just crocheting into the center loop of each one. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.